This Mobile Geeks video is powered by ASUS. So here we have the UleFone pairs for $166. There is a lot to love about this phone. It's got a 5-inch display. It is only 720p, but it does have Gorilla Glass 3. There is actually a screen protector on top of it, and if you just check this out, I've been carrying it around in my purse without a case for, I'd say, a week and a half. And we do have there's a couple little scratches on the screen protector, but it is a screen protector, and I'm glad that it does come with one, because with an or a not so popular phone like this, where are you going to find a custom screen protector? The only sad part is when it does get more scratched up, how are you going to replace it? Extra parts for these aren't that easy to find. So under the hood, we do have a 1.3 gigahertz MediaTek processor. So this is a 64-bit processor, so you are future-proof when it comes to applications. Now, when it comes to performance, this isn't going to be winning any races, but having said that, I am actually able to play Asphalt 3 absolutely no problem. So this is running Android 5.1. It does have a skin. I'm going to let this game load to give you an idea of how long something like this does take to load. So there we go. I have absolutely no problem playing games. So one of the downsides to this is I don't really have any problems playing games, but when I do play a game, finishing this one race will eat 5% of my battery life, which is fairly disappointing. So when this does take a while to load, that is one of the downsides to going with an octa-core processor from MediaTek. It just doesn't have the same oomph as something like a Snapdragon 6800 or 615. But having said that, there's no missed frames. Everything seems to work fairly well. Yeah. So you are able to play games absolutely no problem if that's something that you're concerned about. The responsiveness is quite good, but I'm going to get out of this game here. So you did notice that I did press this button down here on the bottom to get out, because we do have a physical home button as well as a back to access the typical kind of Android 5.1 settings here. So I did mention this does have a skin. There is no app drawer, and this is something that most Chinese phones tend to opt for. It's something that works as long as you're not a person who has too many applications. My main problem is this copies iOS, but at the same time it doesn't have the same features of iOS as when you swipe this way, right? You're able to search the device. So if you don't know where you've put an app, you won't be able to find it. But having said that, like, this actually has some really nice little timeline here, so I can scroll back among all of my photos. All right, so here's a selfie that I took outside. I can choose to share it or delete it. Hit the back button. It's a shame that you can't actually see, these buttons, or actually change if it's back or menu. Some Android devices, you're able to do that, to kind of change what button goes where. You can change the skin. There's a button here that says change the skin, and then it'll just give your icons a different look. There's a themer here where you can choose from a whole bunch of different themes, which is quite nice. I'm not totally offended by this iteration of Android. It seems fast enough. Performance-wise, the only thing that does suck is the camera. It takes a little bit long to load up, so let's take a look at some of the photos. So here's one that I took on the way to the office. Decent. In good light, this actually takes a great photo. I'm not going to lie. So here's something inside a little bit low light. You can see that it's not very sharp. All right, he was sitting really still, and I wanted to get his nose in focus, and I couldn't do that, which is a shame. Here's his paws. Like, not too bad. So there he is again. This is in the low light. Now, this is one of the problems with this device, or any kind of budget device. The swing on the exposure is very high. So there we have overexposed, but this does look pretty good, capturing the sunset like that. Overall, I do have to admit, here's the bokeh, so I focused on this guy, made him blurry. Now he's in focus. It's not a bad camera. In good lighting. Here's HDR, looking pretty good. So now here's a selfie. This is the beautification on. I'm super jet lagged from coming back from New York, so I think I look way better here than I did in real life. Here's me on the plane. That's a low light photo. Not doing too good. So this was before the last camera update. See how the HDR did not handle that well, but just this regular photo is kind of overexposed, artifacty when it was too bright. This I was really impressed with. So this is in New York. Here is beautiful sunset. And then this is 100% zoomed in. There's the Statue of Liberty. You can make it out, right? It doesn't look great when you do zoom in, but at the same time, that's there. That's on 100% zoom, and that is a usable photo. So UleFone has done a very decent job with this camera. So here's the Freedom Tower. Really not too bad. I mean, that's actually a great photo. So here's some indoor shots when I was shopping. This is the first photo that I took, so that's totally backlit. And you can still make it out. Not great detail, but with sun directly in the picture, this really did a very decent job. For $166, I actually think that this did a fantastic job on the camera. If you want to put this up against the Galaxy S6, it clearly loses. Even the Z5, not even close. But these are phones that are 3 times the price. So put it into perspective. The camera on this is amazing for the price point. So let's keep, I totally skipped walking around the system actually. So taking a look around the system, we have a power button here, volume rocker. The power button is the only thing that I find a little bit janky about this. So let's just take a look at that. If you can kind of tell there, you can tell a little bit, right? It's just a little bit soft. This is this very solid, and the power button's the button you're going to be using the most. So I'm nervous that this isn't going to last that long, but having said that, I think it'll get you through a year. If you're looking to get this device for more than a year, I think that the power button is going to be something that may stop working after a while, because it's the button you're going to use the most to activate the phone. So there's the volume rocker. At the top here we have there's a headphone jack. That is the USB 2.0. This is the 13 megapixel camera on the back. So I did check out all those photos. Just taking a look at the back of the phone. Originally, I thought this looked a little bit like an iPhone from the front. I thought that the curves around the edges, as well as this kind of circular button here, even though it's not a physical button, it's running a bit of the iPhone. But the back looks absolutely nothing like it. Now you can take off the back. It's really hard to do so. When you do take it off, you're going to find dual SIM, which is absolutely amazing. So let me just head into here. And the reason why this is so good is that, let me cover my phone number up there. The reason why this is so good is that on both SIM card slots, you have LTE. Now this is LTE that's good for Europe. The LTE bands that this is using are not good for the US. So you better check that out. I have a link in the description for you to see what LTE bands. I think this is 123 and 7, but I mean, like, that means nothing unless you can look up what the bands are in your country, and I don't know the rest of that off the top of my head. So taking a look at what's going on here, the battery life, all day. Definitely all day. So let me go into the gallery and actually pull up. This is my battery usage from yesterday. So I went until, this is like 1 a.m., a little bit of jet lag there, went online, right? So it would have lasted the night. So, right, here's, I'm using Facebook, WhatsApp, Line, Googling stuff. I did a little bit of maps. If I could scroll down on that, you would see probably the most used thing on there was Facebook. I did have intelligent power standby on, which I think is the phone idle is so good. So this is definitely an all-day device. It's definitely getting you through the day. It has a 2,250 milliampere battery, which I really didn't think would get through the day, but it absolutely did. So under the hood, like I mentioned, we have the dual SIM cards, which are both good for LTE. You'll have to swap them for which one takes data. There is a micro SD card slot up to 128 gigabytes. Internally, we have 16 gigabytes of storage. 11 of them are available because of the operating system. This device is 8 millimeters thin, and it weighs in at 128 grams. Now, one thing that I do want to mention that does kind of piss me off is that this says this has a 2.5D display, which means it has a floating glass display. Now, maybe there is a curve on the side there, but what they've done, which I like, I just don't like that they've called it 2.5D or floating, or like an imitation of this floating glass. What they've done, this actually has a very large bezel. If you look at where the display is versus where the edge of the phone is, that's actually quite wide. But what they've done is they've staged it. So here's the all-metal chassis here. I was surprised. I actually had to check because I felt it and I thought it was polycarbonate. But they say that it's metal, so it does have a metal chassis, which is great for this price point. And then they have this kind of other band before the display. So maybe there is a small curve there, but it's more that this band creates that 2.5D effect. So instead of like on some other phones where the glass curves down to meet the rim and we have a round edge, which is technically what you'd call a 2.5D display, we have this plastic and then we have the Gorilla Glass 3. Now what I like about that is that there's a buffer between the metal and the display. So if you do drop the device, I feel like there's going to be an additional buffer to prevent this from cracking. That's probably what they should have sold over saying it's 2.5D. So, I mean, apart from this maybe not being the brightest phone when you're outside or having the best camera that you can, put it all into perspective. You get through the day actively using your phone. You can take a very decent photo outside. Low light's a bit so-so. The front-facing camera, the beautification made me look great, so I was pretty happy about that. And for $166, honestly, I think it's a steal. The only thing that I am concerned about is that maybe the power button might get a bit wonky over a while. So if you do make this purchase, I wouldn't expect to keep this phone longer than a year. So, Nicole Scott here from Mobile Geeks, taking a look at the UleFone Paris. What?